Hi, my name is Carolyn Andrew. I'm a senior partner at Fin Partners. I'm a leader in our consumer lifestyle and sports team, and we've been working in the outdoor industry and on the Olympics for the past 2 decades, representing athletes, brands, and organizations.
And before we hop into the Olympics, can you briefly, there was a very exciting announcement with Title IX today. Can you just tell everyone what happened?
Yes, so we are working with Title IX and are extremely proud of to be involved in their historic Kick-In for Equal Pay initiative, which is a fund and a movement for the United States Women's National Soccer Team Association to help its fight for equal pay. So we have a website, a microsite that's dedicated to it. We have a full force like PR and social campaign going on right now, and it's been really incredible. The media coverage that's come in has been phenomenal, and we're just really starting to ramp up now on the social and influencer side too.
Amazing. We are big fans of equal pay for equal work over at Basecamp, so love to see it.
Yeah, it feels good to work on things that are meaningful and helping a greater cause. That's for sure.
Completely agree. Now, tell us, Caroline, especially for outdoor industry brands, why should they consider working with Olympic level athletes versus maybe more amateur level, which I think is kind of what the vibe is in the industry for the most part?
Us, it's not necessarily about just Olympic athletes. I think all athletes on all levels have unique stories to tell, and depending on, for various brands, there's ways to utilize athletes for different things. So for some of our clients, it's using the athlete as an expert, with and positioning them as experts within stories for in on TV shows or in magazines or online. It can be a way that they can help show the development process of a product, and that it's not just a snowboard or a bike or a jacket or a sock, but it's something that was developed and tested with athletes in mind, and a part of the process is always a great way to think about it too. So I think in terms of Olympic level athletes, yes, maybe it can be intimidating to think of, oh, well, why would we work with an Olympic level athlete? But on our side, I think there's so much potential, when there is this world stage that's very focused on what is happening with the Olympic Games. So if you have athletes on your roster, or if you decide to sponsor an Olympic level athlete leading into the Games, it just gives you such a wider lens to be able to promote things, because it's not just, we're, especially now with surfing and climbing and skateboarding coming in, for a lot of those athletes are only covered in specific outlets. But during the Olympics, there's this larger window where they can get covered in Sports Illustrated and ESPN and the Today Show and Good Morning America and, Women's Health and Glamour and so many other places that they can be seen. And then you can have your brand or product looped in as well.
And so you mentioned the storytelling aspect, which is very smart. How could a brand not only identify an athlete that there would be synergies with, but pitch to them something where there would be a really great campaign that they could work on together? Is that something that your firm would be helping with?
Yeah, so a lot of times, we've been pretty lucky that the athletes that we've worked with have come to us over the years, or they are represented by brands, or to your point before, we help brands find athletes that could be good spokespeople for them. And I think it's for us, you want to think about what that story is and how it ties back authentically to your brand, so that it doesn't feel forced. And if you are going to do something like that, as a, if you're not a product that the athlete actually uses to compete, or go out and do whatever their sport is, doesn't have to always be a competition, but if they're not using your product in that regard, then you need to think about how does that sort of come to life and make sense for your brand, so it doesn't feel forced. So ideally, it's somebody who's already a fan of yours or following you, or it feels like a really natural fit. And when we're looking at athletes that we want to work with personally, it's first and foremost about the story. Athletes have to be willing to share a lot about themselves, and it can't be just about training and their sport. They have to talk about their family and their friends and their mental challenges and eating and traveling and music, because consumers want to hear about from people that they can relate to in some way, shape, or form, so that it feels attainable, right?
Yeah.
And then to me, the second part of that is like transparency when you're working with athletes. So if they screwed up on something, it's okay. We just need to know the facts of what happened so that we can get ahead of it pretty quickly. And then, I mean, athletes and brands, have to be willing to commit. Working with an agency and having them support on PR or social work, it takes time and energy, and we're upfront about how much time that would take. And we will vet all of the opportunities, only bring the best of the best. And we also build in like the blackout period. So first and foremost, we know that the most important thing is the training and competing for athletes. So we'll never try and force an opportunity on them during a time where they need to be focused on what they're getting paid to do,
Yeah.
And then it should be fun too, building ideas together on, ways that you can go and do something different, or, for us, we use athletes sometimes for like experiences. If it's having them be a part of a media trip or, an event that we're doing, or even, when we have athletes come to New York City or something, we'll take them to the top of the Empire State Building, or we'll go out, go and do something that's just kind of like fun that they would never think of doing on their own or with a journalist, because it makes it kind of different. Just last week we had, or I guess it wasn't, the story ran last week, but it was a couple months ago, for Kaloe Andino, one of the surfers. He was doing an interview with Sports Illustrated. Instead of like them just doing a phone interview, we had the reporter fly down and meet with him, and go to a Dodgers game, and cool. So that they can hang out for the afternoon and do the interview that way.
Yeah, and they can chat. Okay, so I have a logistical question. Forgive my ignorance, but other people might have this question. So if an athlete wants to work with Spin or a PR agency, do they pay you for that? Or who is actually paying? Is it the brand? Are you just having athletes in your roster, and then your clients, meaning brands and media, are paying for that opportunity? Like how does that work?
Good question. So some athletes do pay PR agencies directly, but I would say where brands can offer the most amount of support, and in a way that's an affordable way for them to get involved in the Olympics, where, maybe they are intimidated to get involved in the Olympics because they think it's going to be huge sponsorship dollars. They have to be Visa or P&G or whatever. Yes. But an easy way to do that is to help pay for PR for, your athletes, because a lot of them can't necessarily spend extra money on something like that. But for the brand to take the initiative to do that, they can help with helping them get media trained, so they're feeling really confident and comfortable speaking to media, so they know how to weave in your brand messaging. And then they can it also pushes again that like authentic way to get your story told without it feeling forced. But I think that that's definitely a misconception, that people think it's going to be so expensive to sponsor at a greater level, but when you can really just do something small for them. Sometimes you can just sponsor a victory tour. So if they win, have somebody on the ready to get them so that they're on Fallon and, the morning shows, and doing a sort of victory media tour is another way that brands can help.
Are you willing to share? I can edit this out if not, but like some numbers attached to that, like a range, like we would want you to come to the table, or like we could help you if you said my budget is $5,000. Can you help a brand at that level, or should they be coming to the table with more like, 30, 50, 100?
I would say for something like this, you'd want to come to the table with like a minimum of 25 to get started, because usually it's going to take a few months to get things moving. So it's thinking about it over a couple of month time period. And I mean, we've done Olympic programs that have run anywhere from, yes, less expensive, like a 25,000 on a quick victory tour or something like that, all the way up to hundreds of thousands of dollars for larger scaled events and activations.
Okay, perfect. That's super helpful for folks to know. And you mentioned a couple good ideas of just branding ideas and activations. Are there other sort of cool opportunities that brands are missing because they just self-eliminate and think that they cannot compete?
I can't think of anything else. Sorry.
That's okay. An alternate way to ask this is like, if brands are not Olympic partners, we know that there's a lot of rules involved with that. And we know that, use of the official rings and things like that, you can't do. So how would a brand that's not an Olympic partner actually engage during the Olympics and really leverage their brand and leverage a partnership without breaking those rules?
Sure. And I think, a common misconception is the Rule 40, because Rule 40 alone feels intimidating to a lot of people. And I'm sure you know a bit about it, but it's the rule that prevents athletes that are competing in games of having their name or image or anything like that used in advertising or marketing during this blackout period of the Olympics. But in all honesty, the blackout window is small. And if you build a program pre and hopefully post, if there's a victory, there's always going to be plenty of opportunity to get stories out there. And Rule 40 has loosened up a little bit over the past two games. And if you submit your plans to the IOC ahead of time, shockingly, they do approve some of them. So that is another way that you don't have to be a big official sponsor and can get into the game, if you will. And then there's also ways to work around how you even talk about the Olympics during the Rule 40 time. So you can refer to it as a big event, or the big event that's happening on the world stage, And there, I didn't say the O word, right?
Right. Yes, exactly. There's totally very creative ways to navigate these clear rules. Lil was talking about, like, you can't say the Super Bowl.
Don't say Tokyo. But
you're right, though. The stories are really rooted in like how an athlete gets to the games and like also how they're dealing with it after. So there are plenty of opportunities that might not be maybe obvious, but potentially a little bit more, enriching to the story that you want to tell.
I think one of the main reasons why we work on the Olympics is because we honestly love the Olympics. And I know that sounds silly, but like we have full Olympic fever in our office and our team. And the past few days alone have been like so exciting when you think about what's happening right now. It's Carissa Moore winning with surfing gold for the first time, to women's gymnastics, to the shootout this morning in the women's soccer game. I mean, we've got like text chains going, and sometimes at various hours of the night, while everybody's up watching it. So to me, I wouldn't get involved in the Olympics as a brand, or, and I wouldn't push people into it if it wasn't something that they were personally passionate about and, excited to be part of.
Absolutely. So it sounds like if a brand is interested in working with athletes or surrounding the Olympics, Fin Partners would be a great help to them, both with sourcing a good fit for storytelling through the athlete side, and also just like having that hype for like doing something cool and doing some good work that, gets a great message out.
Right. And I think, Title IX, the initiative, is a really good example of something that they weren't planning to do until not even 2 weeks ago. So,
oh, amazing. Okay. Yeah. Wow.
So Missy Park watched the LFG movie over 4th of July weekend, and between that 4th of July time and today, put together, a full program. So that was pretty fast turnaround.
Wow. Okay, so ideas can also be executed quickly.
Really fast.
So if you get this idea, it's never too late to
Right, it's never too late. You just have to find the people who can do it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was super valuable. Where can folks find you if they would like to reach out?
Email is Carolyn Andrew at finpartners.com, and our website is finpartners.com.
Okay, perfect. We will send people